millimeter. You got 4 individuals.
You can make it here in America if you're willing to try.
I'm with you, the American people.
A new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Now we are in danger of being swamped by Muslims.
G'day and welcome to the Conspiracy Podcast. My name's Josh Wade, and on this week's episode we're coming to you live from the iconic Comics Lounge right here in Melbourne. On this week's show we talk to Neel Kolhatkar. We chat about the military industrial system, mainstream media and 20 to 1. We talk about 20 to 1 a lot and discuss why it was better with Bert Newton. You will fucking love the show. If you want to help us out on Patreon, please do. The links are all here, all the other bits and pieces. Please help us out. We need your fucking money because this doesn't just happen by itself. Or if you want to come see me live, I'm going to be at the Sydney Comedy Festival. The ticket links are down there. Shows are all ages. Please fucking come. Otherwise, enjoy the show. You can listen to iTunes or Android. The links are down there as well. Take care, and you'll. I fucking hope you enjoy this episode. I'm going batshit crazy. I'll talk to you soon. G'day and welcome to Conspiracy. On today's episode, I'm here with Australia's very own Chris Rock. It's Mr. Neel Kolhatkar.
Jeez, it's a big compliment.
Yeah.
Big call. You know I love that guy, so it's probably a bit more of an insult to him. I'm more protective of him. I'm like,
You're like a believer. You're Chris Rock's
I
believer.
am the biggest.
What would his fan people be?
Well, usually something with the last name, so the like rockaholics maybe.
The rockaholics.
I'm a rockaholic.
You're a rockaholic.
Yeah.
And an alcoholic in real life. You like to get on it.
I love it. I get on the piss.
No, you don't.
I'm drunk.
I don't know. I can't remember. Like I've known
I
you
drink,
for
but yeah, no, I'm not. I don't
a little bit.
drunk.
So you're here at the Melbourne Comedy Festival anyway. We'll get through these parts. You're here at the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
I am.
Show number 22.
23 tonight.
23 tonight, and
In
you've
a
done a
row.
show every single night. Yeah.
Yep.
How's that?
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. You know, I'm an addict.
So he's an alcoholic, a rockaholic, and a fucking
Stand-upaholic?
Stand-upaholic.
Something like that.
Upper.
No, it's cool. I like the festival, and I just like consuming myself in the comedy here. And yeah, I was like, sure, I'll do a show every day this year, and
Yep.
it's been fun.
Yeah. What are you going to do when you get home? What are you going to do on that first day that you just have to yourself sitting in your room? Because I'll do maybe like I did the 7 days in Perth and Adelaide, and that was just enough that on the like that next day when I had nothing to do all day, I actually almost had like come down where I was like, fuck, I need to be out tonight. I need to be like socializing, doing something. I can't just sit in my room. Do you ever get like, are you going to go home and be restless for
Probably.
a week?
Yeah, I'll probably.
You're not meeting hundreds of people every night.
Yeah, and it's weird going back home, just being all alone. That sounded a bit sad, didn't it? Just being all alone.
It is like
No
that
one
though.
with me.
It is. It does get sad in this little world, doesn't it?
It
Do you
does,
ever-
it
do you ever-
can.
because it's lonely. It doesn't.
Well, yeah, being a comedian's a pretty like solitary profession. You know, you're traveling alone. Like a lot of bands and musicians will have
Yep.
their guitarists, their managers, and all that. We still have like managers and stuff, but not to the same extent.
No, and we don't have groupies either. That's one thing we got fucking jibbed on. You
Oh,
don't have
look.
like groupies. Oh, okay.
You might not. No, we don't. We've got nothing compared to the singers. We don't do very
No.
well, do we?
Nah.
Connor's our groupie.
Yeah.
Every day.
Sucks a mean cock too.
Oh, he's
Connor.
good.
Yeah.
That's why he loves putting that microphone up close.
You guys did Head Above Water together, which
We
is
did.
coming out. When's that coming out, Connor?
We don't have an airing date yet.
Is
Summer,
it gonna-
we've been
is it
told.
gonna come
Summer.
out?
I hope so.
Yeah. And
summer.
what did you play in the film?
I played a surfer
Yeah.
already.
Yep.
Don't look like a surfer, do
Yep.
I?
You got the hair going, yeah. So that's.
I do, yeah. I got into character, although I got into character a few months too late.
Yep,
But no, I played a surfer, and how much can I give away, Connor?
Go for your life. I'll
Okay,
just
so
edit
I
out
played
anything.
a pretty kind of... I played a disabled surfer, basically.
You did, yeah.
I had no legs.
I had only seen the trailer, like originally, and there's a shot on the trailer. If you haven't seen it, go see it. The trailer, like of above, like a drone shot, and it's you walking, and I'm like, why is Neel walking?
He's walking a bit funny, isn't he?
Does Neil actually look like that
I just
from
wanted-
above when he walks? And then I actually saw the film, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. I just thought Neil had a slight like hip ailment or something like that.
Yeah, it looks a bit weird. You don't explain that, do you? You
No,
just
it's
me
just
like
in there.
limping into the water.
They don't give away that you've got a disability.
I've
during
got
the film.
2 fake legs. Maybe it was just a character
You're
choice. Maybe I
Australia's
thought,
Oscar
you know,
Pistorius. Australia's very Oscar.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, got into character, you know, killed my girlfriends.
Girlfriends.
It's fun.
Jeez, you went one step above, didn't you? What do you reckon about... Here we go, now we're delving into
Didn't he
conspiracy.
kill his...
Do you reckon he did it?
It looks bad. I'm not going to comment.
Not working in
but
his favour, is it?
It looks pretty bad.
What about OJ? If we're going, we're already delving down it, but if we're going down the path of sportsmen that have killed, which there's a fucking lot of them. There was one, the NFL player, killed himself.
Yeah, Aaron or something.
Yeah.
What happened there? He killed himself.
So they say, well, that's what they say, but there's like these
he was in a
weird
gang
theories around it.
and stuff, wasn't he?
In jail, and he had like these like weird occult things like on his head and like Jesus stuff, and apparently they said that he'd smoked synthetic weed while he was in there and went crazy and killed himself. But it almost like they're worried because it looked almost ritualistic type murder.
Yeah, well, I didn't get into character that deeply.
No.
But I think, well, it's hard to say. It's always trial by media. I don't know if OJ did. I'm not in the jury. I wasn't at his house, but it looks bad from what we've seen in the media.
Yeah.
And generally, if it looks bad,
But
probably
also,
did it. But I'm not gonna say he did or didn't. I don't know.
Generally, like if it's coming from the media, then like
You don't
they
know.
have an agenda as well.
Oh, here's the conspiracy. It's coming out.
It is coming out.
But you're right. I'm with you there. Yeah, especially the mainstream media, corporate media.
I think that's what sort of in the beginning we were sort of talking about this in the car. I was sort of like a real Bernie guy at the start, and I was all for that. I was like, this is everything. It's a revolution, and it's sort of like built up this inner like hippie inside of me. I was like, yeah, let's get out and protest and let's fuck the world, fuck the government. Let's all corrupt. Where you go and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's actually for more government, and this is actually like the total opposite of what I was kind of thinking. But
exactly,
I think I've always been cynical of mainstream media, and then as I've got older, I've understood why I've been cynical of it. And I think that's when I started to wonder a bit more about Trump, because I thought it was a joke. Did you think it was a joke when he announced
yeah,
sort? You didn't think it was actually
you
going
didn't
to
take it seriously?
Not
you
really.
Thought, oh, okay, that's cute.
It was a video you shared on Facebook and went, oh, look what's happening. This is crazy.
But have you seen those videos now where they compile the way the media reacted?
Yes,
when
I think it's fantastic. And that's what started
announced.
to make me start to switch and go, why do they hate him so much? Like, obviously, he's a sexist. He is a racist. He's 70 years old. Like, he's a product of his own environment. What has he done? Like that, they obviously got an agenda where they don't want this guy to win at all. Like they pulled out. Do you think they pulled out every stop they could to try and bring him down?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think there's a double-edged sword to the whole Trump thing, especially when you tie in the media. Like, I think a lot of criticism on Trump is fair, and a lot of the
100%.
backlash he gets is fair on a lot of the things he said and a lot of the things he's proposing. But the media probably overplayed that.
Yeah, I think it worked.
They made him look even worse than he is. And I think he is bad, but they made him look even worse. And they gave Obama a free pass on a lot of things, I feel.
Yeah.
Especially the drone strikes and the military intervention.
Yeah.
The military didn't say anything when Hillary and Obama did it. But then as soon as Trump's doing it, it's like, oh, this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Well, now they're sort of in favor of it because it's tied into the whole military-industrial complex.
Well, that worries me even more now because this is a guy that spent a lot of time. There's a few videos out there of him in interviews talking about Syria and Libya and, taking out Gaddafi and all those things and how...
Is this Trump saying those things?
Yeah, saying that, it was the worst thing they ever done going into Iraq. And he almost one of his election things was, I was against going into Iraq.
And that was the one big thing he did have on Hillary.
Yes.
You knew Hillary was going to continue with the interventionist foreign policy, but you didn't know with Trump, you didn't know if he was lying because one minute he said, I'm going to take out their families, but then the next minute he said, oh, it's a waste of money going in there. So you thought, well, at least he's giving a bit of hope that he's not going to go and bomb these innocent people. But then, well, he's done it now, and he's done 4 times as many drone strikes on average that Obama did, and Obama did the most by any president ever.
So he's done more.
Yeah, on
Right.
average.
Right.
So on a week-to-week average. So
He did
obviously
say he was
Obama
going to
over
bomb
8.
the shit out of them.
Well, he's
That was
done.
his
He's
quote.
used the mother of all bombs, and it's so hypocritical because they're in bed with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia funds half these Wahhabists. And
I thought that was fascinating seeing him sitting down when I don't know who exactly it was, Saudi princes and stuff like that, sitting in the Oval Office, and he's sitting there with them and, doing the whole diplomatic fucking shaking hands and that. And I thought, this is fascinating because he's not an idiot. We're not idiots. Everyone knows what's funding this stuff and what's going on. And it's just like, do you think Do you think, like with every president, they have that moment where there is a genuine side to them when they're running, and as they sort of go on, they start learning a bit more about what's really going on behind the scenes? Do you reckon that first day, once he's in that office and they sit down and they do the right, this is what is actually going on, this is why we're actually bombing these people?
Yeah.
Do you think it's sort of like it would back you into a corner and go, maybe I understand why Obama was doing that? Maybe like, because I'd have a beer with Obama.
There's a lot of corrupt power structures.
I don't know if I'd give him my fucking flight simulator game, but I'd have a beer with the guy.
Have a beer with the guy. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would too. But I'm sure there's a lot of corrupt power structures and a lot of corruption in general in the higher echelons of American and global politics. And, you know, I don't think one president's ever going to change that.
No.
And
I don't think we'll ever see it.
Probably not. The whole system would have to collapse or something. I mean, there are people out there that think there's going to be a huge economic collapse because you look at the debt America's in and, you know, you're not sure if it's sustainable and things like that. So
to be honest, I'm surprised that they've been able to sustain it for so long. Like we're at a point now where it like I can understand when you hear people say it's going to collapse because I'm surprised they even got out of the last one. Like it's sitting there and it's money that's based on nothing anymore.
And a lot of that, that's something that I guess the populist left and the populist right actually do agree on in the, you know, like the bailout of Wall Street and giving them the big stimulus packages and things like that. The far right doesn't agree with that because that's the government propping up business.
Yes.
And the far left doesn't agree with it because it's the 1%.
How do you feel about having a prime minister in Australia that clearly has money over in the Cayman Islands and like what do you think of Australian politics? Because I never get into that because I just think fuck it. Like really
doesn't matter on a global scale. It really doesn't.
No,
yeah,
it's not up to us really.
Yeah,
we carry on. Like lately, we're still talking about gay marriage.
Exactly.
That's our only decision to make.
Over the last 2-3 years, I've probably gotten more into American politics because I've realised it's much more. You know, the stakes are a lot higher and it's probably going to affect us more even as Australians.
Global politics, yeah. It's
probably going to eventually, the decisions there are going to affect us a lot more. But I still am interested in Australian politics, and I think the whole identity politics thing is kind of clouding the actual problems. You know, people are worrying about what this person said and how, you know, he might have said something offensive when the whole military-industrial complex is running the world and all these other huge corruption problems are going on. And I don't claim to be an expert on it either. I don't know every little thing, but there's definitely something going. Like I've seen videos where the mainstream media, CNN, all those guys were clearly all against Trump, vehemently against Trump. And then as soon as he did the big bomb in Afghanistan that he just recently did, it was something like 18 of those mainstream media sources, they all were at the very least neutral or positive towards that.
Yes.
And that's insane to me.
Yeah, that made me go, oh, something's up inside the White House.
And then I think I'm pretty sure the media is tied into the whole military-industrial complex. So basically...
And the CIA.
It's so weird because the CIA are funding... Either the CIA are funding the rebel groups in the Middle East and then the NSA are funding the ISIS or something. Or like one of them's funding one of them and then the other one's funding the other one and they're fighting against each other. And these big military contracts, I think, are worth so much that I think people just want them, the people, you know, at the top of those military companies that are creating all these weapons, they just want the contracts and they want the money. And
do you think
that's the problem?
It's like, you know, like oil is obviously a big thing that's propping up the dollar, but do you think that like, well, it probably is, I reckon, the reason that the US dollar is only still a thing is because of the military. Like we are at war and it's obviously turned into something big. I always think that like we aren't at the edge of World War III. Like we've sort of been in it, not necessarily, you know, with weapons, but there's economic warfare, there's cyber warfare, there's all these things going on. Like people in World War II weren't running around going, World War II sucks. Like I think in 50 years' time, we're going to look back and go, maybe we've been in World War III for like the last 5 years and just don't sort of acknowledge it right now. Where do you think there's going to be a big pop-off? I don't really think it. I don't think that there's going to be. I think North Korea is the new boogeyman.
You don't know because there's so much hysteria in alternative media, you know, whether that's the left or the right. There's a lot of hysteria from both sides that is saying, you know, this isn't sustainable, and from the left saying, well, climate change is going to, if we don't do something about that, we're all going to die anyway, or we're going to have to face ridiculous weather patterns. And then the right will say things, on the other scale that, well, immigrants and globalization, that's going to, burst the bubble. So there is a lot of hysteria. I don't know if the entire world is going to collapse or anything like that. I think we have been living above our means because I guess it comes down to like Keynesian economics, and it's all a very short-term kind of process. Like we want to, if there's a bit of a recession, you borrow a lot of money, because you just want short-term gain. And even Keynes himself, he said something like, well, who cares about 50 years in the future? You only want to focus on just the short-term economic gain. And that's, when you're talking about big margins and when you've got inflation and things like that going at such a rate, there's an argument to say that even if you are borrowing a lot of money, that debt is going to be worth so little in 20, 30 years' time. But I don't know, man. I've always been much more of a fiscal conservative, and I think we should try to maintain a parity in the budget, and things like that. That's probably more the way I've just been brought up. I'm Indian, so we're all pretty.
But you studied
thrifty.
economics as well, didn't you?
A little bit, not. I only did one semester of it, and then I just went full time into comedy.
Yep. So do you?
So look, I'm not an expert in any of these things by any means. I don't claim to be.
Me neither.
So I want the viewers and listeners to know that I'm not a professional. I haven't done any sort of huge research in this. I think I know my facts, and I have a vague understanding of what's happening.
Yes.
And I like to look at both sources. I like to look at sources on the left and the right, and I just don't really trust mainstream media anymore.
Me neither.
I mean, I trust, but they talk about such shallow issues. It's not anything that's going to impact us on a very large scale. Whereas it's the alternative media that's talking about the real big economic problems and the real factors that I think are going to affect. And having said that, I think cultural issues and things like that are still important, and we should still talk about them. And I like to think I'm predominantly against sort of the modern PC culture and sort of, especially the way they're going about it. But some of the things they talk about I do agree with.
Yes, I think there's a legitimate concern with it. I had someone explain to me, like, there's a difference between, like, being politically correct and just not being a cunt and hurting someone's feelings. Like, you don't really have to go out and hurt someone to be... Not, like, there needs to be a line, because
it's also a question of, do you legislate against that? Do you have a law that says you can't hurt people, or do you try to implant that philosophy within people themselves?
No, you would.
And
just
I'm more the lesser government route. So I don't think we should have laws against offending people. I don't think I'm essentially a free speech absolutist, other than of course a direct call to violence. But I'm definitely against. Well, talking about Australian politics, I'm definitely against the new changes to 18C, and that's coming from a brown man, and I know that means you guys could come out and say, you stupid fucking Indian, go back to India, your culture's stupid, and I'm fully aware of that, but I don't think there should be a law against you guys saying that. I think you should be allowed to offend me, but I think...
Well, that's all it is. It's offence, though. Like, offence isn't actually a,
Yeah, and the reason I say that should be allowed is I think... in the long run, especially when it comes to art, and especially when it comes to, intellectual discourse, we need to be challenging people, and we need to be calling out bad ideas for bad ideas.
Yes.
And it's hard to find that balance, because you want to prevent that bogan on the street from going up to the lady in the hijab and saying, you fucking Muslim, go back to where you came from. You don't want that, but you also want, in an intellectual setting, to be able to call out bad ideas as bad ideas in certain cultures, certain religions that might have a lot of influence on young children. You want to be able to challenge those ideas and say, these are bad ideas because this is the thoughts that they're implanting into young kids. And again, I don't think you ever legislate against that, but you should be able to express your dislike for those ideas. And it's that balance. And I think ultimately society benefits a lot more when at that intellectual level, at that policy level, we are allowed to challenge people. We are allowed to challenge people's ideas. And the unfortunate consequence is that means there could be a lot more casual racism on the streets and things like that. But I really do believe that in the long term, allowing that free speech on a policy level, on a government level, on a higher intellectual level is going to be more beneficial for society.
Yeah, I think so. And I've always thought the reason that, I don't have any anywhere to stand on this because it's not like I've ever had any sort of personal experience with it.
Yeah.
But my common theme in my head when it comes to that debate is common sense should always prevail. Like if you hear someone saying something like that, then they should be able to say that to give themselves the rope to hang themselves with. It should be the people around them that fucking put them to shame for it, and not a government then it's never going to do anything. That's causing that pendulum to swing so far up that you've got people out there now being trolls and saying it not because they actually mean it, but they just want to fucking poke people with it because they're upset that opportunity to say that if they ever wanted to is gone.
If you look at 20 years ago, sort of the mid-90s and things like that, you look at a lot of the statistics that I guess what you want to call the modern day left and the far left want to always talk about. So like the wage gap, for example, which is more an earnings gap.
Earnings gap, yes.
The earnings gap.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I just still call it the wage gap because that's what people know it by.
Refer it to, yeah.
It is an earnings gap.
Yes.
And it is a gap, fair enough.
Yes.
And, you know, it could be an identification. It could mean that, there could be sexism in the workplace, but to make that conclusion, to jump to that conclusion that, women on average earn less than men, therefore it must be all sexism.
Yes.
That's not a fair assumption. You got to look at what is actually causing that.
Yes.
And if you look at 20 years ago in the mid-90s, the earnings gap has gotten bigger.
Yeah, of course.
It's gotten bigger from the mid-90s. And there's been an influx of more sort of third-wave feminism and more of that sort of culture not implanted, but taught to kids. And I think it's having a backlash. And there's a reactionary cultural movement that's happening. And that's probably, I think, the biggest reason why Donald Trump won.
Yes. Oh, of
because
course.
Because people are just want to see people on the left angry.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
When Donald Trump won, even I'm like I'm a 23-year-old brown guy in the arts. Yet I'm still like I can only imagine what like 70-year-old white people feel. Oh my God. Like when Donald Trump did win, because I've often felt that the sort of intelligentsia and the like upper echelons of society that are left-leaning have a real elitism about them, and they look down upon people, anyone who's even like a little bit right-wing. And I don't, culturally I'm definitely not right-wing, but on some economic issues, I do think the right-wing stance has some merit to it. And they'll look down and I remember it was I remember distinctly when I was like 17, the carbon tax was coming in because of Julia Gillard. And I didn't even directly say I was against. I was just talking to a bunch of my friends, and I never said I was directly against it at all. And I do believe in climate change, and I think something does have to be done. But I just said, there are going to be some negative impacts on the economy if you do put in a carbon tax. And they rolled their eyes and you and your economy.
Yeah.
Oh, you and your... It was just so snide, so elitist. And from that point on, I'm like, no, this is,
It sort of pushes you
I don't
more.
like this. This is not a good way to treat people. It's not a way to talk to people. And I wasn't being some climate change alarmist or some bigot that's like, climate change is a hoax by China, like what Trump says. I believe it 100%. It's scientific, It's scientific. It's not a political issue. It's just whether or not a carbon tax is the right thing to do. I'm probably more inclined to say like an emissions trading scheme and investment in renewables is the way to go. But the way I just remember that distinctly, that point when I was 17 as well, they just and I know I was in this sort of like arts thing, so it was all kind of people who were far left. I was kind of asking for it to be. I'm sure if I was like with a bunch of kids who were going to study finance or something, they'd probably have a very different reaction. But I distinctly remember that as the point where I was like, no, I'm never going to be, I'm never going to consider myself a lefty.
Yeah.
Per se.
Do you know, I remember this conversation, and I don't know, like, if this was a fascinating conversation that you were there and I was sort of standing. I don't know if I was really partaking in the conversation. I was more sort of sitting back. It was in Newtown, and you just finished doing a spot. And I don't know if you remember this conversation.
I think I do. Was it the girl that we were talking to?
Yeah.
And she was saying, if a girl has had even one drink, she can't consent.
She can't consent, or she is like, if she has one drink, and you and the male go home together and you have sex, and then she wakes up the next morning and says it's rape, like I got raped, that's totally qualifiable. And I was I remember popping in and going, like, what if the male has one drink and the female, like, I couldn't believe I was even having this discussion. Like, it was like a fucked up
you
maths
don't even want to
question.
have a discussion
Like,
with.
what if the male has one beer, the female has one beer, they both consent to having sex and going home? What if she goes and says that was rape and she's consented to it? Is that still rape? She goes, yes. I said, what if the male says that it's rape? And she goes, no. And I'm like, how can we be arguing equality when there's like this? I don't know where the blur even starts or begins. Do you remember that?
I very distinctly, I remember that discussion, and I'll say like a few things about that. I think one, people like that are definitely an extreme fringe, even within the left. I think there's a lot of hysteria from people in the middle, and especially people on the right, that probably see all of the left as like what you'd call, Tumblrina social justice warrior types. And I do think they're an extreme fringe, and I don't think they have any huge influence
Same with
yet.
the ones that say that, the racist and the xenophobic right.
I think they are an extreme fringe, and I don't think we need to waste too much energy getting too caught up in their views, because I don't think... I like to think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I like to think that's still a very, like, only a minority of women, even women even would have that view that if a girl has had one drink and the guy has had one drink, she can't possibly consent to sex. I don't think a lot of women in general even would agree with that.
We're two men that have never been sexually assaulted having this conversation.
Exactly.
But, I don't know. To me, like, rape is rape. Like, it's
without a doubt,
a different kettle of fish that probably shouldn't be trivialized.
And
like that.
I think there is, like, what the feminists and the third wave feminism talks about is toxic masculinity. I think there's definitely some truth to that. I think there's a culture among young men, and you see that in sort of boys clubs and footy boys and things like that. There definitely is a culture, and there definitely is a certain disrespect towards women, and that needs to change. But I don't think the way to do that is constantly just shaming people and saying you're sexist, you're wrong. The way to do that is to sort of, well, unfortunately, it has to be done on a more subtle level, and you sort of have to implant those ideas into people on a subtle way. Because as soon as you're telling people you're wrong, as soon as you're telling people how to think and what they should be thinking, they're gonna react the other way, and they're gonna go the other way, and that's what's happening. Like, Donald Trump wouldn't have won at any other time in history. The I grab him by the pussy comment would have lost him an election in any other time in history.
I would probably
because people would have been like, "That's wrong. That's just way too far. I'm not voting that." And people thought it would here, but it didn't.
No,
because people were that angry.
They had more videos of him, which from The Apprentice, where he says the N-word inside of it, and like it's.
Oh really? I've never seen those.
No, that's not out. That's not out. It's been confirmed.
Right.
It's not out. It wasn't released due to like confidentiality agreement on the show, but it was sitting there. And who was the comedian that was on the latest Celebrity? He was an American comedian on the latest Celebrity Get Me Out of Here. I don't know.
I don't watch TV.
I know Jim Jeffries told him to go on the show.
Oh, right.
Jim set a trap up for him.
I don't
for
watch
sure.
TV, and I definitely don't watch that. I know a few people who've been on it.
No, but I'd just seen this
I think
clip.
they're great
comedians,
but the show itself.
No, I know. I'd seen.
Having
this
said that, if
clip.
they offered me like,
you fucking
if they're
would.
like, here's
Neil's
$500,000,
done 20 to 1. Okay.
20 to 1's great, man. Hey,
nah,
fuck you.
don't talk shit on fucking Celebrity Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah,
don't make me feel bad when you're commenting on fucking cat videos. Get fucked, right? No.
I'm a guest. I totally do. They took out. I had some real good jokes there. They took them out.
They literally took like it was literally just like a throwaway comment. I was like,
I know
dogs.
it was me. Yeah, I didn't do. They kept my Kanye West thing or something. I had some good ones on there. I did like a Leland Chin impression, and that's my bet. Like thousands of people have died in Midland. Like they took it out. I don't know what. I assume it could have been seen as a bit iffy. Bit racist.
With that show, do they give you the clips that they're going to show on that show before, and then you're able to go and write the jokes and then go into the studio and shoot them?
Yeah, they give you all the person, because my one was they were generally personalities, so they were like news personalities, ads and things like that. So you have, it's not on the spot. You have I had a few weeks to come up with stuff,
of course.
And came up with some good ones, with Chris Hemsworth. I said something like, look, I may not be the best actor in the world, but at least I'm the best in my family. And they just did not use that.
That's great. That's a good joke.
Yeah, I know.
They've got Sophie Monk on there giving her like a bunch of time.
Oh, look, I want to say something, because I know, look, said I hate mainstream media, I don't like commercial TV, and it could be seen as hypocritical, the fact that I'm doing these things. I'm totally for doing these shows.
Yeah.
And being on these shows and being on whether it's the ABC, Channel 9, 710, whatever. As long as they're sort of guest type roles, like 20 to 1, where I can just go on for a little bit, a few more people know who I am, and a sense of legitimacy as well. I've always felt like there's still a certain stigma around internet people where like, oh, that's cute, you're on the internet, that's cute.
Yeah.
And so I want to really break that. So, and I want to be one of the internet people that can actually break mainstream media as well. But ultimately now, I was always like, oh, internet's the goal to get to mainstream media, but now it's like, no, I think internet's the future, and that's where I can have true artistic freedom and say what I want to say. And if opportunities do pop up on mainstream media, I'm totally happy to take them, as long as if they start saying, oh, you got to delete this video, you got to tone down your content here. No. No. So I say that now. If they give me $500,000, I don't know. I'm a bit of a sellout. I'll admit it. I'm the Hillary of comedy. You know. Can you blame her though? I mean, they gave her like 600. People get angry at her. They're like, "Oh, you took all these $600,000 for a speech." I mean, come on.
Fucking take it.
You would take that, wouldn't you? I'd do a fucking speech for $600,000.
And I'd say whatever the fuck they want me to say.
Exactly.
I'd be up there going,
I'd be their little puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd sell out the American people for $600,000.
$1,000. Have you seen like some of the like policy and stuff? No, he's not.
One day if I run for government, they're going to take this.
It'll be your pussy,
I'm
grabbed by the pussy moment.
Grabbed by the pussy.
They just like that. Fuck it. You know how great is that Simpsons episode? You're a fan of the Simpsons. I know.
It. I think the Simpsons are the greatest TV. Well, up to season 9.
Yes, yeah.
Season 9.
It's got a little bit better now.
It has. The new seasons. Yeah. Well, 20. I think it was 27 or 26. That was really good. Then I watched 28 and I was like, oh, it's gone back down again.
Yep.
But it's better.
They've become self-aware, I think.
I think they have a little bit, but they literally became a kid show.
Yeah,
and their gags were reliant on just like, it just went. All the satire was gone. They figured
that kids weren't watching that anymore. Like the only people that watch The Simpsons now are people like you and I that used to watch it as kids. Few seasons, and then it's not. You're not going to get any new fans, I don't think, because you've got too much. You've got Family Guy, and kids are fucking watching that show at probably 9 years old.
And YouTube now, kids now, all they do is watch YouTube.
Fucking
really,
unboxing fucking toy videos and shit like that.
Yeah, the gaming channels. And things like
never
that.
got into that. Like the gaming, I never understood that side of YouTube.
There were always a few boys in like when we were in high school. YouTube was first kind of a big thing, and a lot of my friends loved like guys like Ryan Higa and what's her name?
I think that's
Jenna Marbles.
That's where we all started.
People like they were huge, but then I think I don't think YouTube's audience has grown up with YouTube. I think a lot of my friends that were obsessed with your Ryan Higa, Jenna Marbles types, they've moved on.
Yeah,
I don't think they're still obsessed with. They still like them and they still know them, but now it's the other teenagers that like YouTube's biggest problem. Well, biggest hindrance to becoming like a really big media powerhouse like a Netflix or something is that its audience is primarily 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they're never going to be taken that seriously. Economically, they will, but for serious content, I watch there's a lot of like political channels and things like that I'll watch on YouTube.
And I'm going crazy almost because I've got things on both sides as well that I'll sit there and I'll just open up a bunch of tabs.
You got to watch the far. You got to watch the left and the right.
And by the end of it, I'm watching Alex Jones on one side. I'm like, what is going on? And I always
nuts,
like
that guy.
He is, but I think
you get some.
He's the TMZ of the alternative right. You know, he's.
Yeah, look, you got to listen to him because he has a big audience and
he does, and there are things that he says. So I don't know if you got a chance to watch the Joe Rogan podcast with him, but it was like
a little bit of
4 hours.
A little bit of it.
It was fascinating to sit there and watch. And there's a part where Joe stops him. He's like, "Dude, you need to stop making such outlandish statements without like you'll put like 4 things into one statement, and it sounds crazy to anyone, but you need to break them down." And he's able to break them down. Like he's in a court case at the moment, like right now as we're talking,
right?
Like a paternity case for his kids or something like that. And he basically said that
I don't know why that's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's just
for some reason that's funny.
But someone's in the courtroom right now, like live tweeting exactly what's going on. And apparently he has said they were asking because he did the podcast with Joe and they smoked weed on it, so they're trying to use it against him. And Alex says he tests the weed every year to see how much stronger it's got because George Soros is making the weed stronger, which sounds like such an outlandish statement. And I'm looking
he's
at
the former head of the DNC, is he?
George Soros is he's a head of a bunch of different things.
Okay.
But he's a really rich banker.
He's
like he
high
plays
in the Democratic Party, isn't he?
very
He's-
high.
yeah.
He's sort of up there with your. I suppose your Rockefellers and your Rothschilds and stuff like that. Like he's sort of just a guy that donates a shitload
He's
of
the
money
1%.
and buys policy.
He's
Yes.
one of the 1%.
Yeah,
Okay.
but George was sort of the guy that's been behind like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama. Like he's the one that's bankrolled a lot of it, and he's also been the guy that has he has the what's it called I forget ALC. It's some like abbreviated name that they were organising all the protests and stuff like that.
okay.
And like that they were
Right.
sending busloads, like these organised protests. They were sending busloads of people a part of these unions that George Soros was the head of. So there's conspiracies around that. But anyway, this George Soros guy has something to do with what is it? I never can say it properly. Monsanto or something like the people that are doing the GMO
Okay.
seeds and
No,
stuff.
see,
like
I think
that.
that's where you've got more than I don't know about the extent of corruption and this kind of.
Well, a lot of
stuff.
obviously a lot of the seeds now and a lot of the farms and that in America have contracts with basically they're growing GMO seeds. Which
Okay,
GMO
yeah.
seed, that's a total different debate, but weed now, marijuana obviously is becoming, especially over there, is being treated like for medicinal purposes, and obviously it's not just your hippie fucking guys that are growing the pot anymore. It's big-
actual companies, yeah.
it's companies and stuff like that, and they need fast weed, things that'll grow quicker with stronger weed and stuff
Okay.
like that. So they're, genetically modifying different strains and stuff like that. So I think that's what he's going on. I don't know why I went down that fucking rabbit hole. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
right.
get out of it now.
So there's some basis of truth in what Alex Jones talks
yes,
about,
I think
He's
you got
not
to
a-
look at it. You got to
You got to
look
give
at
him some credit. You got to at least look at his claims and
But I can also sit there and go, I don't know, this guy could also be like, what do they call it? Like disinformation almost. Like he could be controlled opposition, like someone that they put there.
yeah,
Just
because you never know when those people start getting some success, whether or not they think
hit a
in
radio show
financial-
and now he's got this fucking studio.
Yeah,
like
and
it's-
whether they sort of think, if I keep saying these sort of things, I'll make more money, or whether they're
Yeah.
like, I actually believe in these things, I got to say them.
Yeah.
A few have done that. A few have moved away from, like Glenn Beck. I know
Yes.
in America he was on Fox, and now he's got the Blaze or whatever.
Yeah.
I think mainstream media's. I mean, we've been talking. Me and you and I, we've been talking about this for 4 years now.
Yeah, a very long
Like it's
time.
done, and it definitely over the last 4 years, you can already see it's crumbling more and more.
I gave up, I feel. I gave up on the idea of wanting to be on TV because
Yeah.
I just don't feel that by the time it would happen for me,
It's not
I
worth
don't
it.
think it's
yeah.
going to be around.
I'm like I said, I'm happy to do the guest spots and the 20 to 1.
Take it.
Don't
He's
pay.
an-
Okay, 20 to 1's a good
He's
show.
that's really hurt him, but
But
I owed you one.
yeah, yeah, that cut deep, man. Thought all these YouTubers we like, oh my god, you made it.
No, we've
it's
got each
fucking
other's back.
This bitch doing 20 to 1.
Well, it's 20 to 1.
Look,
It would have been better. It would have
it would have been better when Bert Newton was
I was
hosting
just about
it.
to say.
Yeah, not Fitzy and
Yeah.
Whipper, but look,
Oh,
I'm
was it
happy to do
Fitzy and Whipper? All right.
Now I think I didn't get on the later season.
He's still thinking about
didn't get on the
fucking-
lab. What happened? They
Oh, so they didn't. Oh,
didn't ask me back.
dogs.
These dogs, man. Racist. I should call up like Hack and be like, I think there's a lot of racism. No,
When are you
I'm
going to be on one of those
not gonna do
episodes?
that.
What episode would it have
No.
to be? Do you
I don't know,
think?
because I get often like in the interviews and that when they ask me those things, I've always been like, I am sort of against that sort of overriding cultural Marxist PC. I don't want to say agenda because that sounds a bit conspiracy-ish, but
Yeah.
that sort of because again it comes back. I was going to say when we were talking about those things earlier in the way that we were talking about that girl who thinks if a girl has had one drink, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. It's almost become that we're all victims again, and we need to be
Yes.
protected. And then that's how I feel as someone who isn't white. I feel like the left are treating me like a victim because they're like, oh, don't be mean to him. He can't handle it because he's not
yeah.
white.
So is that sort of the same?
But you're
for-
white male. You can shut up. Like, you're
Yeah.
just a white male. Whereas, like, oh, no, I'm not going to make fun of him because he can't handle it. Don't be
Yeah,
racist.
yeah.
They're
It's
victims.
reverse psychology. Do you
It's
almost
like,
feel like it's
fuck
that
off.
Milo
Like-
Yiannopoulos phenomena where he goes, because I'm gay, it means that I have this thing that I'm supposed to have this set core values that I'm supposed to believe in.
Yeah, they want to box us in, basically.
Box you in into going, this is what this, like, it's crazy almost to sit there and hear him say all these things, because I've got this preconceived agenda in my head that's like, oh, well, you would think that he would be this way, this way, this way, this way. And it's just not true. Like, people have so many variables. It's not just skin color or identity. Like, people have had different... I'm sure there's white people in the world that have gone through some fucking horrific shit as well that would have a different opinion on things than...
And then I do think the alt-right and things like Milo and that, they just deny the existence of things like... Well, white privilege is a funny one because I don't really like that term, because it assumes that everyone who is white has somehow had some...
I think
that on a systemic level and on certain levels, there's a certain truth to it, but to just say it's all racism is not... And to not even analyze whether there are cultural differences that are contributing to those statistical anomalies... It's just not scientific. You got to look at what is the cultural difference as well.
It is a cultural thing, because
has things to do with
I forget
it.
what comedian it was, but he talks about getting a time travel machine and being able to go back to any time in history, and what race would you go back?
Louis, he says that.
He does that.
Any time before the 70s, it's like, we have a table waiting for you.
Yes, that's exactly.
And those statistics, because as soon as they go the other way, they don't like the wage gap. When you break down the wage gap by ethnicity and gender, it's not white males that earn the most. You know what it is? Asian males. In America, Chinese males earn more than the average Chinese male earns more than the average white man. So then that breaks down the whole racism thing.
Does. So what jobs
completely
do they
breaks
have
it down.
then?
And then you have to say, look, what is the cultural differences in Asian cultures versus the cultural difference in other cultures?
Yep.
They're obsessed about academia, and they're very disciplined, they're very hardworking, and that's a big difference.
Do you think that's been ingrained culturally because, like, what reason do you think that is, that they've felt the need that's there's a heavy influence on...
Well, I mean, it comes down, like their parents and their grandparents would have grown up in China, where the pressure is a lot higher and you have to do well in school.
Why is the pressure higher?
Well, because you don't have the social safety net. If you don't get a good job, you die.
Yeah,
There's no welfare, or there's no pension.
Centrelink
You die.
Yeah.
And the population is so big that there's a lack of opportunities for everyone. You got to be competitive to get the high paying jobs, and it's a developing economy, so there's not the manufacturing and the low skill labor doesn't pay very well at all, and you're still struggling to survive in those jobs. So that's why parents will really ingrain into their kids, you have to do well, you have to succeed. And there's definitely a downside to that, don't get me wrong, like the suicide rates are quite high and things like that, but I think Western countries have probably gone too far the other way and are potentially coddling their children in particular too much.
I think so.
Yeah.
I really think so. I'm just going to be an absolute cunt to my kid. You grow up and you're going to be tough.
Work hard, mate.
Give him the North Queensland treatment.
Yeah.
Bit of a slap every now... No, I'm just kidding. But my dad did it. But, I've got severe mental health issues now. Heavy. I thought that was going to be a joke.
Okay. Josh's dad, if you're listening.
No, he's not. He's busy working at Lowe's.
My parents, they never maliciously beat me or anything, but a few spanks here and there.
Yeah, I definitely got some smack.
I got some spanks. I got a few.
I definitely got some
twists.
smacks. Yeah. When was the last time you remember it though?
Early teens, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, probably 11, 12, like year 7, year 8.
Okay.
I think I got a smack.
I was talking to someone the other day about this.
But then after that...
Yeah. No, I remember being
I'm bigger than my dad
17.
now, so, come at me, bro.
Fucking run, cunt. Yeah. That's why Neil's been training a lot in the gym. It's just because if that one day ever comes back, I've been waiting.
No. Look, my parents were awesome. They were great. And they very rarely, they'd just a bit of a spank on the bottom.
Yeah, I never thought... I mean, I just probably couldn't do it to my kids now, only because of what
the way
I
we've
went
been
through.
brought up as well. Yeah, I can't see myself... I don't know. You never know if you're angry one day and then...
we're comedians,
that sounds
mate.
a bit bad, but
we're comedians, mate. We're going to play
spank
mind
on
games.
The bottom is all right. You're not going to I don't think you're going to traumatize them with that.
No.
You probably will teach them a lesson or two. But then again, I say that in 30 years' time, my son or daughter is going to be completely screwed up because
I think
I
there's
hit
so
them.
many. I reckon probably what's screwing people up is school. School's got to be the main contributor. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm sure a smack on the leg doesn't help. It's probably not going to make anything super better. But I think, what was your experience like?
In school?
Yeah. What would you?
Oh, generally it was pretty normal. I wouldn't say it was like amazing or anything like that, but it was good enough. I was always the smaller kid, and I was always a bit more into the academics and things like that. So there was a bit of teasing and being called a nerd, but nothing where I was like traumatized, or no like real like horrible bullying where I was beaten up or anything like that. In primary school, it was a pretty rough, not that rough, but it was a sort of lower middle class public primary school, very multicultural, very lot of Chinese, lot of Lebanese.
So did you find that like it wasn't an issue being like Indian going there, like as opposed to like high school? Did you go to school with a lot of
bit? You get like
Right.
a little bit of the
So that
curry
still
muncher and
does-
that, but you give it back sometimes.
Okay.
You know, that's
Yeah.
where you can see that in all my videos.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not afraid to, put a few racial jokes in there. In fact, I've built a career out of it. And then, my high school was a bit different. So the primary school was a lot more multicultural,
Yes.
a bit more lower middle class. And high school was in the shy, so it's still sort of middle class-ish.
Yep.
And this is all for like lower middle class in Australia. No one's
Still-
no one's starving or anything. Everyone's still
everyone's
fine.
doing fine.
Yeah, and although like no,
Just
there
you
are
can't
a few
afford
kids,
to go to Dreamworld every year.
Yeah,
that's
there are
all.
a few kids I went to primary school with that are in juvie and jail. Like there was one guy,
yeah.
Sam Tanui, that was he was on the news recently because he was on the run in Hurstville, which is in southeast Sydney, and there was a big manhunt for him and stuff.
manhunt.
And my mum was like, "Didn't you know that guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that guy.
Manhunt.
He used to come to my house and stuff." And a few other kids, I've heard some stories that they've done some pretty bad things, and they're in the sort of they're in the gang world and stuff. And high school, I went to a selective high school, so that's in Sydney.
explain
In
that,
Sydney, you basically have these public high schools that they're for like I'm gifted, guys. They're for like you have to do a test to get in, and so generally there's a lot more like Asians and Indians.
Yep.
And so Chinese and Indians
Yep.
that get into these schools. But my one was sort of a low-tier selective school. It was one of the lower, because it's the selective school of the Shire. So it's the selective school of the dumb kids, basically.
Yeah.
And
You were the dumbest smart people.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically. And it was co-ed, but it was sort of like, I guess, 60% white and then like 30% Asian, 10%, I guess, miscellaneous.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty
non-applicable.
yeah, something like it was a pretty multicultural, not as multicultural as my primary school, but it was a lot more. There was a lot more sort of surfy culture and
Yeah.
things like Aussie boys in
Yeah.
there and Aussie girls. So I got a pretty good like sort of influence. I got a very varied influence from Hurstville South to Caringbah High School, both public and that. And high school, look, I was never like big on the partying and things like. I wasn't like too much of a nerd or anything, but
Were you confident?
I was a bit on the shyer side. I was a bit of a class clown, like, but sort of overdoing it a bit much to try and get attention.
Yeah.
And I did a few. I was a bit like because I'd gone through primary school being a bit of a like the weaker one because everyone played like footy and that like and I was always the weakest on the team and stuff. So when I went to high school, I'm like, I'm going to be tough. I'm not going to take any shit. And I went like full. I tried to be all black and like in year 7 and that I'd walk around with pop
I think
collars
everyone
and be like,
did though.
Don't fight me. I'll fight you, bro. And it was just cringy. And
White people did that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when
You've got more of a pass.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I could imagine you being all black, like.
No, we did.
in
Like I remember in
Townsville.
grade 7,
Hey,
like you'd
don't
wear
fuck with me,
sweatbands,
bro.
like the M&S
Yeah,
sweatbands.
you went to City Beach. You got
yes,
the sweatbands
DC,
and stuff. And
DC sweatbands and skate shoes. and-
yeah, right. And my high school was much more tame. There wasn't a lot of fights. There wasn't a lot of. There was like drama and things like that. There was one. I got in a fight once in year 7,
Oh,
but.
wow.
It was a pretty just like 1 or 2 punches thrown. That was it. That's the only fight I've ever been in. Not trying to pretend like I'm some tough guy
I went
at all.
to-
I'm generally like, you know how they say it's fight or flight. I'm such a flighter.
too.
I flight.
Me too.
I flee.
Yeah.
I never. Look at me. I'm tiny.
yeah.
I'm not going to fight.
I run. Even if I got,
I'm going to preserve my genes by fleeing. You know.
I could get totally
Let the
shredded.
big guys fight each other, and then I'll take the spoils.
Yeah, I'll come in at the end and do the
yeah.
bloody-
Literally come in.
Um,
Oh, that was a bit.
One drink.
They're going to use that against me in 20 years.
Just that replayed.
Yeah.
There was one kid, so I went to like a private Catholic school up in Townsville, so it was mainly white people. Mm-hmm. And it was, I suppose, like I was definitely not, like it was a school where like people's parents were property developers and stuff like that. Yeah, okay,
so it was a bit well off for Townsville.
Yeah, and
which
I
is
wasn't
still like bogan as fuck.
It's still, yeah, but it's white trash with cash, we call it.
Oh, okay, cashed up bogans.
Yeah, so
okay.
It's, people in the mines, stuff like that.
I find the Australian, like rich Australians and poor Australians, it's not that like in England or whatever. You've got I'm like, the cultural divide between upper class and lower class. In every other country, like Australia's quite an egalitarian country.
Because everyone
between
came
upper class
from
and
middle
lower
class.
Yeah, you can't. It's not a big difference really.
No.
In fact, now it's more of a difference between sort of inner city leftist culture versus your lower class outer suburbs and then your upper class conservative, which are sort of now in bed with each other. It's really strange because the sort of, I meet a lot of like the Sydney North Shore private school rugby boys, and they're all very much g'day, how you going, let's have a beer. Like they're not sort of up themselves.
No.
They're a little bit more, they'll maybe talk about property and shares and I don't know, all that sort of stuff that I don't really get into, but there's not a big cultural divide here in Australia.
For me, there's a big difference between... So, where I was going, we just had one Indian kid at school, and his name was Mandeep, and he was Sikh, and he used to wear, like...
he gets in Mandeep.
Yeah.
There's always one Indian in the country, in the...
And he had the worst name to go... Like, to be the only Indian guy at the school...
Be Mandeep,
To be called Mandeep, it was just like, he was a fucking walking target. But everyone loved him, because he loved cricket. He loved sports. So everyone's
Indians,
like, well,
we
that's
do.
how he found his way into like, fitting.
Was he good? Was he a good cricket player?
Yeah.
That's good. If you're good at sport in high school, that always...
He's better than I wasn't into
crap.
sport. I sucked. I tried.
I tried out for the cricket team. I became the fucking scorer.
Oh, really?
And I had to sit there with this like fat lady from the other school scoring.
Neil hooked up with her.
Shit.
Something. I could imagine you.
I wasn't even the 12th man. I was the fucking scorer. I was so bad. And once I got into state swimming because, like, I was an all right swimmer.
Thorpe.
Oh yeah, Thorpe.
Imagine him in his speedos.
Oh,
there on the podium.
Well, you'll see me in my speedos in
head above water.
I don't look that good, but
Did you train for that? Did you?
I just like.
Surely you would. Like, surely you would have.
I
would have.
consciously. I was just doing like sit-ups each day and trying to like lose a bit of the.
You don't want to look your worst.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't. I'm not ripped or anything, but it's bearable. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I'll put up with me and my speedos for that.
Yeah.
Elliot was crazy. He's like, oh, don't show me from underneath here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. Elliot was like, don't show under my pecs. I haven't been training. Because he'd gotten injured or something like that. But no, there's pressure. Like when you're in your speedos in a film, you're like, damn, I want to fucking look good.
Yeah.
Because like you don't cop the same. Like that is something. That's definitely true. Girls will cop a lot, but also from other girls as well who are like, oh, look at those thighs or whatever, and from the magazines and whatnot. But guys, you don't cop it directly, but the other guys are thinking like, oh, that guy's a bit fat, or
and they're never going to say
he's not very ripped or anything like. No. And the girls are thinking that as well. They just don't say it, but they're definitely thinking.
There's a culture of that. So the difference I found I live in the Gold Coast now, and I've lived in a few different places, but the difference from the top of Queensland to like down the bottom there is so they're just so far away from each other. Like you were saying, like you've got friends that catch up and they'll have a beer and they'll talk about, the stock market and housing price and stuff like that. That's the conversations I'm having with my friends now from the Gold Coast. And they're about a year younger than me, and they're at uni, and like just the way that they dress when they go out for a beer is so different. Like my mates in Townsville will just wear their T-shirt and their JJ shorts. And it's just like, fuck, like... This is just
there's a bit of cultural difference between, I guess, upper class and lower class in Sydney, but it's still pretty much, it's not too different, I think.
I mean, they're still bogan as shit. They're from Queensland.
Yeah, there's a lot of bogans with great houses, like out in the country. Oh man, they got the great, 4 or 5 story house, and 4 or 5 bedroom.
They've got fuck off money. They're going out pigging for fuck's sake.
You're getting the utes and things like that.
Like 100,000.
Although they're all in debt, they're all got a lot of credit card debt. The Asians and Indians wouldn't do that. We're not in debt. We
No.
save our money.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't spend it.
Yeah, it just sits there and just gets passed down, and no one wants to touch
Oh,
it.
no, we don't. Well, I haven't seen any of my parents' money yet, so I don't know when this passing down is happening.
Well, you'll know. Well, anyway, look, so you've got a few things coming up. I suppose you've got Sydney Comedy
I was
Festival.
enjoying that.
The
Just
conversation.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. We could go forever.
Keep going. I'm happy to keep going.
Oh, that sounded really sexual through these headphones. Actually, it was a bit
Happy
of
to keep going with you, Joe. I'm happy for you to. I'm happy for you to keep coming.
So what have you got up next though?
I've got Sydney Comedy Festival
Yep.
coming up, Emerald Theatre May 6th.
Going back home.
Yeah, hometown. It's going to be the biggest show I've ever performed. So it's
Yes, you've done really well.
Exciting, thank you. Then after that, I got a few regional shows, but I'm working on a. This is going to sound hypocritical after having made fun of mainstream media. But look, my thinking is like, the big thing that we're missing out on as internet creators compared to mainstream media is money. There's not a lot of money on the internet. We do it full time, but we're not rich by any means.
We don't have budgets like they have.
We
for
don't have budgets
TV
at all.
shows.
There's no advertisers. And I mean, you look at our content and to an extent you understand why. So I thought, how am I going to get around it? Because if I go more commercial with my content, then, that's the whole beauty of the internet. You can say what you want and be whoever you want to be. And there's artistic freedom. And as soon as you have
Investors
commercial
involved
interests and
advertisers.
and products involved, then you can't say certain things that you want to say. So I sort of thought, how can I get around that? So I've decided to develop a reality web series that's separate to my page, separate to my content, and it'll be on a separate Facebook, but it'll still be me hosting and things like that.
Yep.
And it's totally commercial. I'm saying that right now, totally commercial.
Yep.
It's like The Bachelor meets Gogglebox for
Yeah.
a Tinder generation, basically. It's
You've
called
been working on it for a while.
Been working on it for a while. I did a pilot ages ago. It never got picked up by TV networks, but now I'm just going to put it online. And it's called Who Would You Rather?
Yep.
So there's a chooser and two contestants.
Yep.
The chooser, we interview everyone. The chooser meets each contestant in a really awkward, like dank little room.
Yeah.
Make it as awkward as possible. And all the while, there's 3 or 4 of us roasting them via live feed. So that's where the Gogglebox element comes in. And so I got a few internet people involved in that. Got Frenchie Ben Hunter, Alan Sabulia, who's doing some good things. That guy's killing it right now.
Yes.
And then Stephanie
He's the
Bailey.
he's the next to come.
Yeah, he's the next.
through.
I've always said each year there's like an Aussie comedian on the internet that's like goes hot and like starts going big and like for us it was 2013.
Yep.
And then the year after was French, then the year after that there was like Friendly Geordies came up a little bit.
Yeah.
And this year I think Alan is just destroying it.
Of course.
He's killing it.
He's been doing it a while as well. I remember seeing his videos almost back when we met, maybe like 2014. He was making
really?
some,
okay.
Yeah, and it was my auntie who taped, and she lives
No
in
way.
Queensland. So
Okay.
he was only getting like, he had under 1,000 likes on his
'cause
page.
I collabed with him last year when he didn't have too many likes, but I saw he had some talent and, looked...
He's funny,
like
and he's
a
got a
good-
show at
He's
Sydney
doing
Comedy
a show
Festival
as well, so we're really encroaching on the comedy world, aren't we? Us YouTubers getting in there. But so what was I saying? Yeah, so Who Would You Rather? That's something I'm working on, and it's going to be quite different to what I usually do. It's very commercial. It's very bachelory.
Yeah.
But that's because I just want to make money from it. I want it to be a separate thing to what I do, and I just want
That clip's going to be shown as well, along with all the other little bits and pieces. Just that one snippet of I just want to make money after, and I'll cut that in with the speech.
I do
thing.
from that thing.
No,
from that,
no,
I just want to make
No,
money
no,
from it.
of
Like
course,
I'm not trying to say it's some big, awesome groundbreaking, but I want to be able to then fund those sorts of projects from the money.
Yep.
I can hopefully make.
When
from
is
that.
it going to be out?
We're
Do you know?
hoping August.
Yep.
We're hoping, but sometime this year.
Yep.
I don't know what the first season's going to be like. It's all an experiment. Might not be that good, but I'm hoping to get at least 10 to 20,000 likes on the Facebook page from it, and then go to advertisers
Sell
and
it
say,
from there. Yeah.
"Give us your money." got to put that in there.
Throw it in there.
And go up to them and be like, "Give us your fucking money, cunts."
And they'll do it.
That's what. Yeah. Look, you can tell I've always been about the money.
Yeah.
From the first big video, give us your fucking money. I wasn't even acting.
No, he wasn't.
I'm all about those dollar bills, Josh. I'm the Hillary Clinton of comedy.
comedy.
Okay, I will sell out in a fucking second.
Fuck. That's going to be your
if fucking
Twitter
Commonwealth
bio.
Bank were just like, "Look, mate, come and do a speech. We'll give you well, if it's 600,000 in America, it'll be like, we'll give you $6,000. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Do you remember that?
If KFC offered a free Zinger burger, I'd probably fucking do it. I'd probably sell out like a motherfucker.
Zinger stacker.
Yeah.
I'd try and upsell myself
I'm all
to
about
the Zinger
those
stacker.
dollar bills, man.
Do you remember the Sydney, that YouTube thing that we did in Sydney where we had
Vidink.
to... Oh, that. I wasn't going to go to that,
Oh,
but
okay.
I've totally
That was
forgot about
horrible.
that.
Yeah.
That was something. I've still got some photos on my phone from that. I remember that. That was...
That's pretty fucked.
That was disaster.
It was a
wasn't
scam. That
was
guy's
a
a scam artist.
Did you get paid to be there? Because I wasn't.
No,
meant to
I
even
just
be there.
wanted to do it because it was cool. Because I'd just gotten.
I don't
some
think
internet
anyone got
fame
paid
and,
to
like,
be there, unless they were like.
It was so poorly organized. It
Did
should
you
be like
perform
the
on
guy
it?
should be sued. Yeah, I performed.
You did stand up comedy
Yeah.
at the thing, and then
And they were all like most. We know how to do things live, but most YouTubers, let's be honest, they're pretty bad.
you
live.
could see it. You could see. Like I remember
They
sitting
were
down watching some of the
pretty
musical
bad.
stuff, and that was just
Yeah.
like.
Not gonna name
fuck.
names, but oh man.
Yeah, go look at the lineup. Alex was supposed to be there as well.
Yeah, they were gonna charge people like $200, and then he
And Alex
never
was
did
the
it.
smart one.
He had cancelled like a week before, but they didn't tell the fan. Look,
Bro,
and there's
there
been a
was
few
no
like
one
that. There's
there.
also been there was Amplify or something that I've
That's
heard
still
it just
going.
is a scam.
That's just MagCon
It's
in
a
Australia.
scam. They're all scam except VidCon now is coming to Melbourne, and
Yeah, but
I'm going to that.
I've
Are
been
you
to
going to that?
VidCon.
I'm
No,
gonna
I've been to
go.
VidCon 3 times before.
Okay.
And I've always thought the same thing when I've gone in and gone, because I've been lucky because I've gone
It's a
there.
scam,
Like,
is it? Just little 12-year-old girls
Well,
paying like hundreds of dollars to
it
just,
is-
like,
it is if you're
look at
paying. It is if
fucking
you're
Tyler
paying.
Oakley.
And it was
oh my god, it's Tyler Oakley.
It was quite fascinating because I got to go with Jamie's World, and I went there and she was like a
Yeah, you
guest
did.
there. Yeah, I did. She's a really nice girl. She's a great girl.
Yeah, she is. She's cool.
She genuinely is.
She
like-
is. Yeah, I've met her a few times. She's very talented.
And I went there, and because basically at the time I went basically because I wanted to go, and her manager's
Yeah.
like, well, I was good friends with her manager, and she goes, well, why don't you go with Jamie, and you can get the pass with her, and you can go, all behind the scenes and do all that. And I was like, fuck yeah, like
Behind the scenes with Jamie.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry. just
Nothing. There's
You're good
never going to
friends
be
with
a
that,
sex
yeah.
tape of Jamie's World and
I didn't
Josh
suggest
Wade.
that. Jeez.
No, well,
When's the first YouTube sex tape coming out? Well, we're all dudes. We're fucking all dudes. Like, it's like,
who would it be?
it could be like.
It'd be Elliot Loney for sure.
Oh, I'm sure he's got a sex tape out there somewhere on his phone, probably. He's got a fucking sex tape from last night.
He's got one of those apps where it's like the private folder type apps where he's just got 40 gigabytes. worth.
Kevin. he probably fucks them as Mr. Parker. And he's like,
There you go, Elliot.
Kevin.
Gave you some promo.
Get around the boys.
That was
Yeah.
so I'm there, and I was there with. So Jamie's filming this video, and
Yeah.
she's filming it with this Andrea Russett girl. Do you know who that?
I don't know a lot of YouTubers.
It's
for
just some
someone who's
American
on
like
YouTube.
blogger
Okay.
type thing, and they're doing this video, and they're talking about Rebecca Black, and they're bitching about Rebecca Black, Friday
Mm-hmm.
girl. Anyway, because one of the girls used to be friends with him or something like that. Anyway, later on in the day, guess who walks into the room with everyone?
Was it Rebecca Black?
Rebecca Black,
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
And
Awkward.
yeah, I know. I was freaking out, and I actually was freaking out because I was like, "Holy shit, that's fucking!" I'm like, "Why isn't anyone else here like getting really fucking excited? This is Rebecca fucking Black, right?" Surely, if you were in the room, Rebecca Black walked in, you'd like have like this little buzzy
Look,
feeling inside.
I don't know if I would, Josh.
Really?
I'm not the biggest fan of
did.
Rebecca Black.
It was a scene,
Like,
a meme in real life. It was just like shit. That person actually exists.
Maybe I'd be like, oh, cool, that's the girl.
I wasn't
But I don't
excited.
think I'd have a buzziness inside of me.
Okay,
I don't know about
I'm
that.
backtracking. Fine. I was
All
fangirling.
to their own.
I was fangirling, and Rebecca Black walks in, and they're all like, it's just typical. Like it
Yeah.
seemed like just such a
So it's
cliquey environment.
so you're saying they were bitching about it before, and now
Yeah, and everyone was sort of friends with
are they
each
gonna be
other
angry? Are
because
they going to watch this and be like, oh,
oh,
Josh, you
they're
cheat.
never going to see this. They're never going to know who I am. But
True.
but they might see Neil on 20
That's
to
why
1.
I'm saying.
But yeah, it just sort
Well,
of was like
I
what,
can
go
afford
on.
better fucking equipment now. I can't.
Yeah, the GoFundMe's going well. Go check it out. Actually, it's probably going better than
I'll have
ours.
Soros. I'll suck George Soros's dick and get like 10 million. Suddenly I'll come out as just like, there's too many white men in YouTube, and
It's
I feel
just
really
changed.
oppressed.
Yeah. We've cut Neil deep with the with the fucking 20 to 1. I know your soft spot now. I know your soft spot. I'm
Look,
just gonna
I'm
come
so
to the
proud of
show.
20 to 1. Fuck you guys.
Well, I'm proud about
The best-
meeting Rebecca Black, okay?
Yeah,
And
okay.
and getting that buzzy
It's
feely
their
inside.
own.
Anyway, we'll wrap it up here because you've got to go.
Okay.
You've got some shows and that. So
Yeah.
we've had an interesting discussion.
It's been great. It's been really good.
We-
Probably one of the best podcasts I've
Covered a
been on.
lot. Well, at the start, he thought this was every podcast ever, which it sort of
I was joking.
was.
Oh,
So you
triggered.
get my soft
You
spot.
triggered.
Yeah. All right. So you can catch me on every other podcast that's on iTunes, and Neil will be on 20
No,
to
what
1
did I
maybe
say?
next
I just
year.
said, it's a white guy complaining about PC culture. That's every podcast.
The frogs are gay.
Culture. Yeah.
Sorry. All right. Okay, Neel Kolhatkar, go check out his stuff. The links will all be in the description below. Thanks for getting on here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Loved
being
it.
here.
Thanks for being here in the presence of someone that was on 20 to 1.
Yes.
Bow down, bitches.